Good morning. How are you today? I hope you guys are good. It is another Monday, and today is the 8th of April, so we're in Q2. And it's things like that that make you really realize how quickly time flies. I actually have this theory that the older you get, the faster time flies. And the reason time flies fast is because we're very engaged. We've got so much to do, so little time. So you tend to start counting time in terms of, weeks and months and goals and targets. So once you just get into all that, you realize very quickly how time just kind of flies by, and it makes you actually realize how much you need to really get your plan together, because if you don't, before you know it, a year's gone, another year's gone, another year's gone, and then one day you wake up and you got gray hairs. Like if you're a man, you got gray hairs coming out of your nostrils and in your ears, and you ask yourself, what did I do? What have I done? Is there anything that I can sit back and say I have achieved this, and these are the things I've done? And this is where normally these morning calls that we have are designed to kind of like prompt you into getting serious with what you need to do in order to progress. And this week we've got quite a number of exciting things. For starters, we have these calls that we do every day from morning, Monday to Friday, and that's your these particular calls which are related to the 7:30 call. In the mornings on Monday, you have yours truly. I come through, I give you stuff relating to unleashing your destiny. And then on Tuesday, you have Aunt Sylvia, or Dr. Sylvia, Sunshine Sylvia, Mwanza, who does her thing with the Mindset Change program. Then on Wednesdays, we have the open market. So on the open market, we kind of keep that open and permit you and anybody else really who's interested to be a part of that. So that's what Wednesday is. Then Thursday, we have uh, Prosperity for Your Soul with Dr. Nelly, and then Friday we have Dr. Jackie with Health Tips. And these Fridays we've been having Dr. Mubanga come through to kind of see it through. So if you're watching right now, remember to tag someone, remember to share this, and just let people know that we're on. Share this in your WhatsApps and all that. Just let them know what's happening. Thank you, Thompson. I see you this morning. Thanks for always being faithful and coming through. Moses Chanda this morning. You're on our call. That is really good to have you here. And we hope that you'll be able to learn a thing or two this morning, because this morning I'm doing the last part of my series on unleashing your destiny, because from next week we do something else. So let me also take this opportunity to announce that on Friday and Saturday we have the Real Woman Summit, 650 kwacha, sorry, for the tickets. You need to be a part of that. We have a very, very amazing lineup. I will be one of the speakers, so make sure you make a point and be a part of it. So if you haven't yet gotten yourself a ticket, make sure you get one, because you will have a great time there. Dr. Sunshine Sylvia is also part of what's going on there. We have all the other speakers as well. Make sure you do not miss that and be a part of what we'll be doing. So 650, you can get a ticket from me. I also like to share usually concerning the booklet which I have. Now let me see if my PowerPoint is showing. So give me a moment. If it isn't, we're just gonna run straight into the presentation without it and progress. So, there we are. So the PowerPoint is showing. Alrighty, so today we are picking it up. Remember, we are following the strategic roadmap. We have been doing this with the roadmap since we started. This roadmap has been on special. It's going at 50 kwacha instead of its usual 100 kwacha price. So you want to make sure you're part of this. Make sure you grab yourself a copy of this particular booklet and make sure you fill that up. And to do so, I have shared the links, I think. Check in the comments. You will see that they are there. Today I'm glad to see somebody from Kika Bell watching from Chicago. If I am correct, that's 7 hours or 8 hours behind us. So this means you're watching this literally sometime almost towards midnight. Thank you for joining us so late in the evening to be a part of what we're doing. Thank you for being a part of this. And by the way, as I say, this booklet is available. The link has been shared. So if you check either one of the links that you're watching on, I think with the exception of LinkedIn, that link has been shared. So you should be able to grab yourself a copy of the same and be able to fill in the booklet. Make sure you fill it in so that you don't get messed up. In short, use that as a guide to carry you through as we're doing this presentation. Now, meantime, let me really quickly rush with this. So today we're looking at monitor your progress. Are you on course? This is the last bit that we're looking at. And remember, in determining whether you're on course or not, we have what we call key performance indicators. By definition, these are quantifiable measures used to evaluate the success of an organization, employee, or individual in meeting objectives for performance. Now, these are very important. There's a lot of people who run around doing stuff, but they don't have any indicators to determine if they're progressing. And what tends to happen for many is they end up becoming frustrated because they think they're not progressing. And that's why you want some very, very specific things that will help you to know whether you're moving. So examples of key KPIs would include things like revenue, numbers, turnover, productivity, sales, leads, retention, events, and basically the idea there is you've got some numbers next to each one of them, and you can use them you can monitor them on a regular interval. So whether that interval is weekly, monthly, quarterly, biannually, or annually, the point is that you want to be monitoring this a bit regularly. Of course, the more important what you're doing is, or the more critical changes are in what you're doing, the less time you want between each interval. So ideally, you want to go as far as a daily monitoring, every other day, weekly, fortnightly. You just want to make sure you're doing that a bit more regularly. So for example, if you're working towards building your weight, for example, you want to lose your weight, or you're a bodybuilder, or you're one of these things, and you want to make sure that you're not really going off track, you want to make sure you're monitoring these things regularly, like your weight, to make sure that you're on track. So anyway, like I was saying, that's what it is. So here we have the points. And then remember, you don't want to be busy. You want to be productive. Sometimes a lot of people find themselves being busy but not being productive. And that's a very common problem. So what we call it being busy. But activity is not the most important thing. Results are the most important. And remember, clear-cut action plan is critical. So remember, in creating that clear-cut action plan, your goals got to be SMART. We covered that. And then remember to work on the what, when, where, how, and who. So what is the definition? So if you're creating any kind of KPI, you want to be very clear. What is the KPI? Okay, so define it clearly. And remember, your tracker, your key is your SMART goal. So that's gonna really help you, because for a lot of people, they usually miss that. They kind of miss that, and because they miss that, then they tend to get a bit haphazard and blurry in their progress. So what's gonna be clearly defined? When has to be clearly defined. That means time and date. Where has got to be clearly defined. Which location, what place is this gonna run from? How looks at the tools and processes, and who looks at the resources. Okay. On resources, we're talking about personnel, money, time, and skills. Those are resources. A lot of people think resources just relates to money, but it's not just money alone. It's about really creating the necessary personnel, money, time, and skills to help you progress. Now, very quickly, here are some items which I want to kind of mention. These are very important when it comes to our presentation this morning, and I think I'll really dwell on these three. And these are called the detractors to destiny. I speak about detractors to destiny because so many people get caught in these, and because they get caught in these, they tend to lose their track. Let me zoom in a little bit. I want you to see my expression when I'm saying this, because this is a life and death scenario. That's not the correct layout. Give me a moment. Let me get the correct layout. Where is the other layout? I think it's the correct one. I just don't understand why. Man, technology is messing me up. Apologies, guys. Give me a moment. Okie doke. I guess, yeah. Let's leave it at that. I don't know why. Today is just one of those days. So anyway, detractors to destiny. So in these detractors, you've got three major areas. A detractor, by definition, is something that draws attention or diminishes value or purpose away from a given main objective. In other words, a detractor is like a repellent. It pushes you away from what you are supposed to be doing or achieving. And there are three major detractors, my friends. The first one is living in the past. The second one is the shiny detour. And the third one is the sunk cost fallacy. So let me just delve a little deeper into every one of these so that I help you understand. So let's begin with the first one, which is the time travel. So time travel, or living in the past, is a detour. And the way this time travel works, let me see, I just don't have enough notes. I need to just kind of sink deeper into each one. Alrighty, so in time traveling, what normally happens with other people is they find themselves going through an event in their past, and then that event in their past keeps them kind of trapped in that reality. In other words, after going through what they went through, they have no capacity whatsoever to avoid being influenced by that past event. So for example, if you spend some, if you went through, and there, by the way, there are two of them. There's a positive event and a negative event. Now, in the case of, and let's begin with the positive event. I think let's go with the positive event first. So in positive events, you have situations where somebody goes through, maybe they're a CEO, maybe they're an ambassador. They reach a certain point in their life where they're very, very high. And then in that point, they get all their accolades. And then after that, they diminish. You know, one of the things about life is that once you're done with being big, you will diminish. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people cannot handle the diminishing. You see, once you've had your accolades, you've had your star, that passes, somebody else comes there, you got to make way, you got to move aside and go on to whatever the next dispensation in your life is. For many people, they fail to do that. They fail to move on with the next phase of their life. So they kind of get stuck in the old phase. So for example, somebody will get fired from a job or they retire, but they still think they are CEO, they still think they are whatever they think they are. And so they kind of carry, they don't get into this place of embracing the new place they're at. They still want to hold on to the older place they were. In men, we have what they call it a midlife crisis, but it doesn't really matter what you want to call it. But the point is, it's this refusal to accept where you are now in light of the greater place you were in the past. Does that make sense? I hope so. So a lot of people, that's what I call a positive living in the past. And it affects people because they went through something very high and they're not ready to transition into the new chapter of their life. I mean, even when it comes to our bodies and who we are, we grow older, we start getting problems we don't normally face. And sometimes a lot of people refuse to accept that. They go into a very serious level of denial instead of just embracing whatever new space they're in. So that's the first one. Now, in that, we've got also the negatives. Now, the negatives are the more obvious ones. These are the ones where you go through a bad experience. Maybe you started a business, it didn't work. Maybe you got into a relationship, it didn't work. And so because of that, then you now, you gauge all new relationships, all new businesses, all new situations in the light of your old negative experience. A lot of people struggle with that. Sorry, I'm having problems with my internet over here, so you have to forgive me. The signal has gone from my PowerPoint. So a lot of people struggle with that, and because they refuse to accept the fact that they're just not the spring chickens they were. They're not just the people that they thought they could be. Whatever it is that they wanted to be is no longer the case. And so because of that, what they do is they then go into a state of judging every new situation on the light of an old one. That's a really bad place to be at, my friends. Never ever judge a new situation in the light of an old experience. So if you had a very bad old experience, don't let that old experience block you from achieving that which you ought to achieve. But unfortunately, a lot of people tend to do that. So what happens is, even when opportunities to progress come, they don't want to move into those new opportunities. They still look at them and say, what if this is the same? Oh my God, this looks the same. And remember, what that behavior of tending to look at things and then judging them is called a mindset, it's called a paradigm, it's also called a frame. So a lot of people, because of the messed up experiences they had in their past, they now carry these messed up frames, and they believe that these frames are what define their presence. And so they never progress. They are literally stuck in that particular situation. And unfortunately, this blocks them from receiving great opportunities their way because they are too afraid to move into that new space. They say, what if it happens? What if it happens? And unfortunately, if you're going to have that kind of mindset, I assure you, you will never progress in life. You will always be stuck in your past. I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of people in that space as well. Okay, they had trauma in childhood, that maybe bad things happen to them, and then they carry on through life arguing and fighting with everybody because they feel everybody's the same as whatever they experience. Sometimes this can even lead to a neurotic personality. You know what that is? That's the one where you feel like everybody's after you. It's a very, very sad situation. And the more negative experiences you have, if you don't understand how to deal with this well, it can actually block all your future prospects. I've heard people come to me who say, Rev, I think there's a curse in my life. All the men, every time I find a man, they don't stick around, they leave, they don't want to hang around. You know, after 6 months, engagements fall off. Well, but have you ever taken time to just double check yourself? Maybe you're carrying this personality based on your experiences that pushes people off based on your bad experience in the past. So you've got to be very, very mindful of this. This time travel is very common for a lot of people. That's why a lot of people don't even get into business. It's the reason a lot of people don't take any risks and do something about changing their reality, because they judge based on past experience. What you need to do is learn to let go of the past and live in the now. I'll talk about that at the end. Number 2 is what we call the shiny detour. Now, this shiny detour, ladies and gentlemen, is very interesting. A lot of people have this challenge. You decide, for example, I'll give you an example. You decide, I'm going to be serious with business. I'm starting business. Well, I'll give you an example. I think this is it. This is the woman of my life. This is the man of my life. I'm going to focus. I'm going to make sure I do this thing. I want to make this marriage work. So you're focused. You're doing whatever it is you're doing. And then as you do that, the shiny detour shows up. Let me use the work example as a better option. So you start your work, your business, you're running, but your business being business, you start struggling, things are tough. And as you're struggling, a shiny detour comes. What's a shiny detour? A job. And you look at the job, you look at the money they're offering, you look at where you are, you look at the struggles you have, you say, I think, let me just do this job a bit just to give me extra money, then I'll come back to my business. But I've got news for you, my friends. The moment you go into your job, that job becomes a serious preoccupation. And the more money they pay you, the more time they'll need from you. And the chances of you being able to build and establish your business dwindles with each passing month that you're in the job. Why? Because you lose something in business we call momentum. What is business momentum? Business momentum is the concept and idea that when you start something, it's actually called the law of momentum. Very interesting. It says this, it takes 5 times more effort to get something started from 0 than to keep it going. I'll say that again. It takes 5 times more effort to get something started from 0 than to keep it going. What that simply means, my friend, is that it will take a lot more resources. Remember, I told you about resources last time: time, effort, people, tools, skills. These are resources. Now, if you decide that you're going to go for that side opportunity, what you do is you minimize this. This thing actually comes to a grinding halt or goes super slow. And then that momentum you would have gained by doing this and moving faster kind of slows because you've taken all your attention over here. So when you come back, several things happen. Let me tell you what happens. Number 1, you definitely don't make much progress because all your attention is on the job. Yes, you're getting paid, but your dreams die. Number 2, which is even more important, all your peers, all the people that you were with on the starting line, they will have left you. You know, the funny thing about opportunities and about, situations in the market is this. If you go to sleep, and hear me well, if you go to sleep or you get distracted, the opportunities don't wait for you. Somebody else will fill them up. That's why they say nature abhors a vacuum. Why? Because anytime you move out, you're replaceable. And I hope you can understand this. Don't you ever think you're indispensable. You are dispensable. The moment you die, the moment you're no longer in your space, someone else will fill that void. And by the time you come back, you will not have that dominance. You have to start again. That's usually the biggest challenge with the shiny detours. Sometimes I agree, these shiny detours are very, very important. They are very serious. They are part of what makes you gain the funds to fund this. But truth be told, unless you're very categorical, very strategic about it, you will lose momentum. You will lose that speed that you had going for you. You will lose that progress. And most important, your peers will overtake you. And you know, that in itself is one of the reasons why I try so hard not to go for the shiny detour. The only things you should be going for are things that directly relate to what you are doing. When you go into that, it's actually going to take you further here. So for example, let me give you some examples. My sister is a caterer slash events person slash, yeah, but she's more into catering, but like very unique kind of catering. And she's on many occasions started a business and then found herself failing and going back into the workplace. But one thing I like about the type of jobs she does is they're 100% related to what she is trying to start. And these jobs have helped her gain tons of experience when it comes to using that in order to run her personal business. Of course, the other component is raising capital. But you know what? Even if one raises capital, business being business, its unpredictability, the challenges of cash flow management, it's so important to really stick on the ground and push and gain that momentum. A number of you have heard me say this. I call it the 1-3-5-7 principle. You've heard me say this several times. I'm going to say it today again for the umpteenth time. It takes 1 year, and by the way, these numbers I'm giving you are for standard businesses. They are arbitrary, so meaning each case is unique. And in fact, a number of business people have actually told me that these I'm even being a bit fair. Otherwise, genuine businesses do struggle immensely. Well, whatever the case, the statistics do work against the businesses. Remember, 1 out of every 10 businesses closes within the first year of running. And for those that run after being registered, 1 in 10 close within 5 years. So meaning in a 5-year period, we're looking at roughly 1 in 99 businesses. So 1 in 100 businesses succeeding. So 99 fail. Now that's a really bleak number, but it's not far from the truth. For most businesses, if you're lucky, maybe 5 or 6 out of 100, but many close, many go stuck, many go bust, many go nowhere. And that's why I am telling you this. So 1 year to break even. So meaning when you put your money in the business, just to make back what you put, 1 year. And this is why if you go into the side detour, how are you going to survive? How are you going to make this business work? Because you're going to end up losing even the little momentum that you gain because of that particular side gig. So 1 year to get to break even, 3 years to become sustainable. Now that's a serious concept there. 3 years to become sustainable. Can you imagine that? That means the business can pay for all its expenses. So many businesses do not manage to pay for their own expenses in the first 3 years or so. They just cannot pay. Now, can you imagine there are some people who will even borrow to start a business? That's why I always tell people, do not borrow, because truly business is so challenging to do that if you, without borrowing, you're already set for failure. You have so much going against you. Now imagine borrowing. So meaning on top of that, you have to actually pay somebody back money as you're building this business. It doesn't work. Take it from me. I've been in business 20 plus years, going 30. It doesn't work. Don't borrow. Borrow, use your own resources, find a way to get money that you don't have to pay back. Or even if you don't pay, nobody's going to come and slaughter you. That's the kind of money you want to get. But even then, I am very particular about it. So 3 years to break even, sorry, to become sustainable, 5 years to become profitable. Can you imagine? So most businesses start really posting profits to write home about 5 years down the line. And then there's somebody saying, no, when I deliver those items, and from there, we'll bring in the equipment, and then, really? good luck, because you'll come and remember this speech. Most businesses, 1 year just to break even, 3 years just to become sustainable. Most don't even make it to the sustainable part. They collapse completely right at the beginning. So remember that. Then number three, okay? Number three is the sunk cost fallacy. What is that? That's whenever a past expenditure distorts your decision-making process. And this is one of those cases where, if you understand accounts, then you'd know this. But in case you don't know your accounts, sunk costs are costs you can't recover. In business, when you decide to start a business, there are certain costs you won't get back. For example, the registration of your business. If you need to comply through regulatory procedures, that's not coming back. You put that money in there. When you have to get a premises and rent it, that's not coming back. Your airtime, your bundles, your internet, the money you spend to run the business, the calls, that's not coming back. The salaries for the people you employ, that's not coming back. The rentals are not coming back. Those are called sunk costs. If you change your mind somewhere down the line, that's it. That money goes. It's not coming back. So these sunk costs are where we get the term sunk cost fallacy. Now, in this particular case, whenever a past expenditure distorts your decision-making process, then it is a sunk cost fallacy. And you're unable to make what I call solid, sensible decisions because you are stuck in the cost in the past. So for example, you put in maybe 100,000 kwacha to get a business going. You invest time and effort and you're running, but then somewhere down the line, you realize this thing is not making you money. In fact, this thing is draining you money. And to make matters worse, you don't even like it. And then to add insult to injury, there's now even more competition and the whole space just sucks. Now, a lot of people will be at that space and go, oh. So what they do, they tend to continue putting good money after bad money because they get into this what I call illogical thinking, where they say, or illogical premise where they say, let me just put money in, and then once I make back what I put in, then I can let it sink. The truth is, you end up putting good money after bad money. And for most such situations, people never make their money back. It just keeps going. So there are many examples. You pick a course, you say, I'm going to do law, I want to graduate in law. Second year down the line, you're like, you know what, this law thing is not for me. There are so many people who still finish the course. That's what I call a sunk cost fallacy, because you expend so much energy and then you get to the end, you don't even want this. So that's a deception. So let's look at the three types. The waste of principle is what I just told you, which is where you want to avoid the feeling of lost resources. So you keep putting good money after bad money. You keep putting effort, time, purpose, value. You're putting all this stuff in there because you just want to at least gain back. I don't know what exactly it is. Then number two, the preference for risky gambles to certain losses. So the facts are speaking and telling you it's not working. It's not working. It's not working. But you're like, nah, it'll work. Nah, it'll work. So you get to a place where you're literally gambling now because everything has already told you it's not going to work. But because you're in this state, this fallacy, you say, nah, it will work. I will make it work. That's the second one. And then the third one, which is the biggest one, in fact, this is the biggest one for many people. It's the justification of behavior, saving face, pride. In short, you have pride, you told everybody, you announced, everybody knows you're doing this, and then now it's not working. So you stay in there just to make it work, so that you look good, because you're too proud to admit that it's not working. There's another area of this whole sunk cost fallacy, which is very, very touchy, and it's in the area of relationships. I've seen, like my elder the other day, my president, Dr. Mumba, posted something to say that this idea of telling people that if marriage is not working, leave, is straight from the pit of hell. It's devilish. I agree to some extent. I agree, but on the other extent, expedience demands that your safety is supreme. And if that situation isn't working, you want to exit. It's as simple as that. You can't sit there and say, nah, God hates divorce, but then there's murder in your marriage. God hates divorce, but then there's adultery in your marriage. Come on. If you cannot sit and work this out and everything about it is no longer working, especially relationships, before marriage, you read all you see all the red flags, and you realize this is not going where you want, that's your chance. Forget about saving face. Pull the plug. So a lot of people get into these very unhealthy relationships with their opportunities, with their courses, with their decisions. They are too stubborn and afraid to realize that this is gone. It's just it can't be done anymore. So what's the solution I always recommend? Look ahead. That's number one. Look ahead. Instead of focusing on where you are, focus on where you could be. And remember, there is a way, there's where you could be positively, where you could be negatively. Since the Bible admonishes us to focus always on the things that are good and that are positive, we want to focus on that instead. Let's put our eyes and minds to the positives instead of the negatives. That's number one. And then number two, you want to stay focused to where you want to get to, but more importantly, number three, you want to cut your losses. What is cutting your losses? You know, the Bible has a very interesting passage that Jesus gave. He said, if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. But it's better to enter the kingdom with one eye than with both eyes to be in hell. If your limb causes you to sin, chop it off. It's better to enter lame and maimed into the kingdom than to go with your full body into hell. And I love these particular terminologies because Jesus basically is saying sometimes we need to cut, and cutting will be painful. That's why that's why the saying in English goes, cut your losses. Just say, you know what, it's okay. I'll take this. I'll deal with this. It's fine. It's a loss. Too bad. Let me use this as an experience. And this is where we always say that when it comes to the rich have a saying, a very powerful saying. They say that, what do the rich say? They say that for the poor, and you know, there's a big difference between the rich and the poor. When it comes to the poor, bad experience, they have bad experiences. But when it comes to the rich, they have learning experiences. So every negative setback for the rich is a learning experience. So you need to ask yourself as well, as an individual, whether you're willing to learn from the past and to use this as your reference. That's the key. Are you willing to say that, look, I know this thing didn't work. I know this thing went south. I know this thing failed, but you know what? I can make it. I will make this thing work. So that's the key there. You've got to make yourself be able to make what you have work. Cut your losses, move on. So there you have it. Those are your three detractors to destiny in relation to monitoring your progress. Remember, the first one is the, I can't believe, let me go back on the slide. There it is, the time travel. So the first one is time travel. The second one is the shiny detour. The third one is the sunk cost fallacy. Which of these are you currently struggling with? And let me take this opportunity. I don't normally do this, but I'll take this opportunity in the next 1 minute as we close. Are you willing as an individual to do something about changing this? These three that I spoke of, the time travel, where you're stuck in a past thing that's blocking you from now, or the shiny detour, you went on the side. And by the way, the shiny detour, I forgot to mention, the longer you stay in the detour, the more roots you grow. So even when you want to exit, it's much harder than you can imagine. Many people actually get stuck in the bog of the shiny detour, in the murky waters, in the quicksand of the shiny detour. They never manage to come back out because they grow roots and they get rooted. And even when they want to come out, they can't, so they become a trapped person in that. I tell you, I am grateful to God that I had the courage to come out of every situation where the shiny detour became a detractor. Okay, so are you suffering from any one of these? Or maybe it's a sunk cost fallacy. If so, please reach out. Let's discuss and see a way out. I mean, obviously, I have my fees for that, but you know what? Don't worry about the fees. Let's discuss. And meantime, for the rest of you, the booklet is there. I've left it hanging. It's not 100 kwacha, it's still 50. You can get it at 50 kwacha, and it will be able to help you put together your 1-year strategic plan. You really don't want to waste a lot of time and effort instead of doing going around in circles, instead of doing something about positively changing your life. And so tomorrow, Aunt Sylvia will be here with Mindset Change program. Remember, Friday, we're have a very big event on Saturday, which is our dear colleague. She's running the program, which is actually the Real Woman Summit. Tickets available. You can message. I'll give you details. On that note, everybody, thank you for being a part of our call this morning. Join us every weekday, Monday to Friday. We have these absolutely free. You can come and learn quite a bit as far as your mentoring is concerned. Take care and have a good day and